Late at night in the monastery, everything was completely still. Only the faint glow of a candle flickered in the meditation room, softly illuminating the Buddha's peaceful face. Gentle moonlight streamed through the window and fell across the floor, calm and serene. Outside the meditation room stood a disciple named Virtuous Awareness, his expression serious and his heart full of confusion. He had been practicing for a long time, living every day close to the Buddha and listening to countless teachings. Yet one phrase, form is emptiness, kept troubling him, especially the part about form. Whenever the Buddha shared insights on emptiness and interconnectedness, Virtuous Awareness could sense the depth of that wisdom, but he still couldn't fully grasp the true meaning of form is emptiness, particularly as it related to the idea of avoiding female attraction. The Buddha often reminded disciples to be cautious about such entanglements, yet also taught that form itself is empty. Was this form only referring to the attraction between men and women, as people commonly assumed? If everything is empty, if all phenomena are merely formed by conditions, why was female beauty singled out as something to avoid? Virtuous Awareness couldn't stop wondering, if all is illusion, why emphasize that one must steer clear of this particular illusion? Was genuine spiritual practice just about distancing oneself from appearances and suppressing every desire? If form really was nothing at all, if it was empty, then wouldn't female beauty be just like trees, mountains, or rocks? Nothing to get attached to. Why then was it treated as a forbidden temptation? He recalled what some fellow practitioners had said. They believed one should avoid female attraction in order to prevent greed, and greed was the root of suffering. But if everything was empty anyway, without true existence, how could a thing that isn't real still disturb the mind and become an obstacle to practice? These questions had lingered in Virtuous Awareness's mind for a long time. Late that night, when everyone else was sleeping, he finally mustered the courage to approach the Buddha and seek clarity. He came to the entrance of the meditation room and spoke softly. "Master, there is something I don't understand. Please help me dispel my doubts." He did not directly voice his questions, waiting respectfully for the Buddha's response. The Buddha sat calmly on a simple cushion, eyes gently closed, with a faint, compassionate smile on his face. After a pause, the Buddha slowly spoke, his voice as warm and clear as a breeze across a still lake. "Virtuous Awareness, what is it that troubles you?" Gathering his courage, Virtuous Awareness said, "Master, you often teach us that form is emptiness, but I still can't grasp it. If form is just an illusion, why do we need to avoid female attraction? If such beauty is empty, why not treat it as we would trees or mountains, remaining free of attachment? Why must practitioners flee from it as though running from a deadly beast?" There was a note of urgency in his voice. He was eager for guidance that might finally unlock the mystery in his heart. The Buddha gave a gentle smile and did not answer directly, but instead motioned for Virtuous Awareness to follow him. Though uncertain, Virtuous Awareness obediently trailed behind the Buddha. They left the meditation room and walked along the small path in the courtyard. The night sky was dark as ink, the moonlight as soft as water, illuminating every corner of the monastery. All was silent, interrupted only occasionally by the distant call of birds, adding a touch of mystery and solemnity to their late-night conversation. Eventually, the Buddha led Virtuous Awareness to a wooded area behind the monastery. Moonbeams filtered through the leaves, creating shifting patterns of light on the ground, like countless tiny stars dancing in the night. Stopping beneath a tall Bodhi tree, the Buddha looked at the branches overhead and spoke with a kind expression. "Virtuous Awareness, how would you describe this tree?" Virtuous Awareness paused and gazed at the ancient Bodhi tree. Its branches were sprawling, and its leaves were a deep, vibrant green, full of life. "Master, this tree is rich with leaves and vitality. It appears very beautiful," he replied sincerely. The Buddha nodded. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he repeated, and Virtuous Awareness answered without hesitation, "Yes, it is." The Buddha smiled slightly and asked, "Does its beauty cause you to become attached?" Virtuous Awareness frowned thoughtfully for a moment, then shook his head. "It's simply a tree. I wouldn't become infatuated with it." "Very good. The Buddha looked pleased and turned to virtuous awareness with compassion in his eyes. Now, if a person with a lovely appearance stood before you, would your mind remain as calm and free from attachment as it is when you look at this tree? At that, virtuous awareness felt a slight flush of embarrassment. He lowered his eyes, feeling self-conscious. Deep inside, he knew that the beauty of another person, especially someone he found attractive, could stir strong desires and disrupt his thoughts in a way a tree's beauty never would. Sighing quietly, the Buddha spoke again with gentle concern. That is where the trouble arises. The tree's beauty doesn't disturb your mind because you can perceive its true nature. It isn't bound to your desires. A person's beauty, on the other hand, often triggers the deeper cravings within you and unsettles the mind. He paused, letting virtuous awareness absorb the insight, then continued. The issue doesn't lie with form itself. It lies with the attachment and distinctions in your own mind. Seeing virtuous awareness deep in contemplation, the Buddha quietly asked, "Have you ever seen the moon's reflection on the surface of water?" Virtuous awareness lifted his head, a flicker of curiosity in his eyes, and nodded. "Yes, Master. I've seen the moon's reflection in ponds or lakes, gleaming beautifully in the water." The Buddha gave a gentle smile. "Is the moon in the water the real moon?" Virtuous awareness paused, unsure what the Buddha was aiming at. After a moment, he replied, "No, Master. It's just a reflection, an image produced by the interplay of water, moonlight, light, and the eyes. Without the water's surface, it wouldn't exist." Nodding, the Buddha continued in a clear, calm tone. "You're correct. The reflection of the moon is not the actual moon. It arises only because certain conditions come together. Yet even though you know it's not real, have you ever found yourself captivated by that shimmering reflection? Perhaps even feeling an impulse to reach for it, even though reason tells you it's nothing but an image?" Hearing this, virtuous awareness blushed slightly. Indeed, he had once stood by a pond, spellbound by the moon's reflection in the water. Some part of him had momentarily wanted to reach out and take hold of that illusory light, despite knowing it wasn't the real moon. "This is where so many people become lost," the Buddha said gently. "They confuse illusions for reality. The moon's reflection on water is an illusion, yet it can still awaken your desire, leading you to think about grasping it. You find it beautiful and become moved because you haven't fully recognized its fleeting nature." Lowering his head, virtuous awareness felt the weight of understanding. "Female beauty is like the moon's reflection," the Buddha continued. "It looks lovely and stirs desire, but its essence doesn't last. It isn't truly solid. Like the moon's reflection, it relies on outside conditions, namely your own longing. Without that inner craving, its power to entangle you vanishes. In the end, it's just another shifting appearance." Every word was like sunlight piercing fog, gradually clearing virtuous awareness's confusion. He began to see that form wasn't a solid, unchanging thing, but instead a label for all appearances that arise and pass depending on various causes. There is no fixed, eternal substance behind them. They only emerge because the mind's desires give them weight and meaning. Still, he asked, "But then, why must practitioners keep their distance from these appearances? I understand now that form isn't truly real, yet I still don't understand why we seem to be avoiding it, even avoiding contact with it." The Buddha's gaze grew deeper. "Because the human mind is fragile. It's easily ensnared by appearances. You see something pleasing, and your desires stir. Even when you know on some level that it's illusory, those desires can still drag you down. Look at this tree. Its loveliness stands on its own, not relying on whether you feel desire. You can appreciate its natural beauty without grasping for it, but the beauty of a person often ties into your own untrained cravings. When your mind hasn't been refined, this can lead to obsession, making you lose balance." Virtuous awareness listened in silence. A feeling of clarity began to grow within him. He realized that it wasn't simply the outward appearance of a woman that disturbed his mind, but rather the unaddressed longing and fixation inside himself. "Practitioners distance themselves from outer temptation," the Buddha continued, "not to deny its existence, but to protect the stillness of their hearts. When the mind stops being pulled around by external influences, you discover genuine calm. Over time, once you've gone beyond mere appearances, you can see the true nature of all things. Virtuous awareness felt much of his confusion lift, but he still had one more question. Master, if we recognize that all attachments are merely illusions, how do we truly cut them off? If these attachments exist only as images in our mind, how should we face them? There was a compassionate light in the Buddha's eyes. Most important is not to forcefully suppress them, he said softly, but to notice their fleeting and conditional nature. Think of the moon's reflection. It won't stay the same forever because it depends on the stillness of the water. In the same way, attachments depend on your inner cravings. When your heart sees them as illusions, they no longer control you. Virtuous awareness fell silent, reflecting on his past struggles with desire. Those cravings had once felt undeniable, yet suddenly he saw how they resembled shifting images in water. Taking a deep breath, he asked, how can we train ourselves to recognize these illusions more clearly? Is understanding form is emptiness enough to end all attachments? The Buddha gently shook his head. Form is emptiness isn't grasped instantly. It's a continuous process of awareness. It's not just an idea. It's a way of refining the mind. Picture the moon's reflection again. It appears clearly on a calm surface, but disappears if the water is disturbed. Your mind works the same way. When it's restless or full of cravings, you can't truly perceive emptiness. So practice means keeping your mind steady and watchful, preventing desire and attachment from stirring the waters. Virtuous awareness nodded, a new tranquility settling into his heart. The Buddha went on, study and contemplation are part of this, but you also need to live in harmony with your surroundings, seeing beyond superficial appearances. Whenever you feel attachment arise, remind yourself that it's just another reflection. There's no need to chase it. A sense of deep relief came over virtuous awareness. He recalled all the worries and troubles he had carried for so long and realized they were nothing but illusions spawned by his own unexamined thoughts. Bowing low, he expressed his gratitude. Master, thank you for your teaching. From that moment forward, he felt a renewed determination. He would practice diligently, striving not to be trapped by illusions, but instead to look straight into his own heart, seeking genuine insight and awakening. The Buddha nodded in acknowledgement, his eyes shining with wisdom. The path of practice isn't simple, but as long as you remain true in your heart and do not waver in the face of life's ever-changing circumstances, you can be like a lotus, rising unsoiled from the mud. You will transcend all suffering and find genuine brightness. Virtuous awareness slowly stood and bowed again, the last traces of doubt slipping away. In their place was a clear, unwavering calm. He understood that real practice began at this very moment. Though the road ahead would be long and demanding, he was ready to walk it with determination and newfound clarity.